People tell me they're frightened of court. They tell me they're frightened of the unknown. And nearly every question boils down to one of these. Am I going to lose my children? What if they lie? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I cry? Very few people are asking about case law. They're asking whether they're going to survive emotionally. People only need to know the next step. They don't need to know everything. People don't have to be perfect. They just need to be prepared. And as I always say on all of my social media and my lives, I get people to sing it with me. The magic is in the prep.
Welcome to Family Court Conversation with Everyman Justice. I'm Gergely Fried, a McKenzie Friend and the founder of Everyman Justice. In this episode, I speak with Michaela about what parents really need to know before going to family court. Fear, preparation, Cafcass, common mistakes, and how to stay focused when everything feels overwhelming. This conversation is for general information only and is not legal advice. Let's go into the interview. Michaela, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to hearing your experience and your honest view of family court support.
Thank you so much for inviting me on here. It's an absolute pleasure just to speak with other people in this profession and to share the knowledge and hopefully help some people out there.
Yeah, I was really interested in speaking with you because you have been around family court support for a long time, but your style is not dry or not formal. You explain serious things in very direct and funny and very human way, and I think this is why people connect with you. So can you introduce yourself properly, who you are, what you do now, and how you end up in the family court support?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for that wonderful intro. I'm Michaela Wade, and I have worked in civil litigation for nearly 30 years and family law for around 20, which I know makes me sound like a dinosaur at this point. Before I specialised in family law, I was actually a fraud investigator. I know what you're thinking. She sounds way too nice to do that. I'm very naturally curious or nosy. And I have been asking questions and I like putting puzzles together. These days, I run Michaela Wade Law, where I support people who are representing themselves in family court. And that could be anything from child arrangements, domestic abuse, financial remedy proceedings. The reason I do it is simple. I realised years ago that people don't want to wake up wanting to become experts in family law. They're there because their family has fallen apart. And it's my job to take away some of the fear, help them understand what's happening, and help them present their case as clearly as possible.
Wow, 20 years is a great experience. In your view, what has changed most since you started?
The biggest change, I think, is information. 20 years ago, things like social media wasn't quite the thing that they are now. So you'd end up with lots of people scouring through quite dry and crusty books, sometimes completely blind. Now people arrive having watched TikTok, YouTube videos, Facebook, podcasts, AI, and that's brilliant until it isn't. I love AI, but nowadays, people have access to way more information than they ever had before, but not always the right information for their case. Sometimes my job is actually helping people unlearn what they've read online or in the comment section.
That's very interesting. Even from my side, I'm in a shorter time, and I have been doing this already. Feels like the sector is changing quickly. More litigant in person, more online content, as you say, that more people calling themselves McKenzie Friend, and also more confusion for parent. And you do a lot of TikTok lives and answers people's questions directly. How does those questions tell you about what parents are really frightened of?
You're right there, because people tell me they're frightened of court. They tell me they're frightened of the unknown. And nearly every question boils down to one of these. Am I going to lose my children? What if they lie? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I cry? Very few people are asking about case law. They're asking whether they're going to survive emotionally.
I think that is one of the things people outside family court do not always understand. Parents are not only asking legal questions. Very often they are panicking. They are trying to understand what is happening, and they want someone to make sense of it. You said the client is the case. They know the facts and the history. So why do they still need someone beside them?
You're right. I always say this. I'm not the case. The solicitor's not the case. The barrister isn't the case. The client is the case. They know who, what, why, where, when, and how immediately. They're the only person who knows every birthday, every text message, every school run, and every argument. What I bring them is perspective. I'm helping them organise all of those thousands of pieces of something, their Tesco carrier bag of life, into something a judge can actually understand. In fact, I spend half of my time literally translating what the judge is saying to what it means and how that's presented. It's weird, right? Because I have clients whose first language perhaps isn't English, clients who have learning difficulties, but it doesn't matter who they are. Family court has got that weird language. And this is why when they say they are the case, my job there is, honestly, it's literally the translator. Because when you go into court, it kind of looks like English, sort of sounds like English. It definitely does not feel like English. So I'm helping them put that into some kind of meaningful order and helping them understand who's who, what's what, and what does the judge want.
Yes, if I pick the most important from this, knowing your own story is not the same to knowing how to present it to the court. When the other side has a solicitor or barristers, how should the litigant handle the pressure, and what advantage can they still have?
I actually think, and I've always advocated this, I actually think litigants and persons underestimate themselves. They don't believe that they have more options and power in their hands than they actually do. Yes, the other side might have a solicitor, but they probably only met the client yesterday. Clients have lived their case. I mean, nobody understands it better than they do. I think preparation beats panic every time. I will always tell people that whilst your anxiety might be in fifth gear, having a plan and the preparation, it's boring, it's not sexy, it's not what they show on a Netflix documentary, but it is key to, I'm going to say, a successful outcome in a case. When you have the other side's barrister or solicitor, just that knowledge in itself, that brings anxiety down from fifth gear to first gear. And I'd also point out something else as well, because I do think that being faced, no matter how lovely actually the other side's barrister and solicitor is, it's just a job, they are human. When you go to court completely on your own, you are like the cat that's backed into the corner. I truly and honestly believe that making sure you have your squad around you is absolutely key. Now, whether that's somebody like me and you, McKenzie Friend, whomever it might be, you need somebody to be your sense of perspective, your voice of reason, to keep you on track, to either make sure that you speak what you need to speak, or honestly, to be quiet. That pressure and anxiety from having the other side, the real issue isn't the solicitor really, or the barrister really, it's the fact that people are going into court and seeing the ex, which for whatever reason, is very, very triggering. They do have an advantage because litigants in persons, and I will say this as a caveat, with a decent McKenzie Friend next to them, it really is, I think, a winning formula because they can act quickly, they can pivot when things change, they can improvise, they can be very, very proactive. Most people that go through family court are very reactive. They feel like it's something happening to them, and that often makes them feel, whether they realize it or not, that they feel that they're on the back foot. We've been, listen, McKenzie Friends have been a role since the 1970s, and it's bizarre because we are 2026, and even now a lot of people don't know exactly what we do. I think that when one goes to court, one has to have the solicitor, but actually a lot of the complaints that I've had from both people who are on the other side and from people who have solicitors, there are common things. There's a reason why A, the role has been around since the 1970s, and B, why I've been doing this for over 20 years. people often find that if they remind themselves that they probably only met their client yesterday, they're only acting under instruction. If there's no response, they're probably not getting instruction, or let's be honest, the bill's not been paid. They're probably waiting weeks for instructions, or even weeks to get an appointment. I think when people point out the reality rather than, let's be honest, an episode of Suits, people realise, oh, let's debunk some myths. I've actually now got a bit more power in my hands than I think I do.
Yes, what I see quite often, people defeated before the hearing even starts just because the other side has the representation. But the person still has their own facts, their own documents, their own understanding of the child and the family history. With Cafcass, what can a good McKenzie friend do that may be different from a solicitor role?
It's interesting because the issues that parents come to people like me and you about are not actually the same issues they would go to a solicitor about, again, for lots of reasons. So I think that I see my role as helping parents understand the process before they ever speak to Cafcass. We spend time thinking about what are the concerns, what's actually relevant, what's going to help your child, having the plan, not having scripted answers, but helping them be focused and child focused, whether it's something from pro tips to a sense of perspective. It really is, I think, about helping parents feel calm enough that Cafcass gets the real version of them.
So why does Cafcass create so much fear for parents, and what should the parents understand before they're talking to them?
You're right. A lot of people are scared of Cafcass. I think it's because people think Cafcass are there to catch them out. The thing is, actually, Cafcass are simply trying to understand risk and understand the child. Knowing what's on Cafcass's shopping list, for want of a better term. When people are in fear and in panic, which most of the time they are, parents go into like a kind of fight or flight mode. It's this kind of survival mode. They think every question is a trap. I'll always say to people, and actually this is with court or with Cafcass, feels are different to reals. What Cafcass are actually trying to do is just trying to build a picture. And the job of me and the job of the parent is to make sure that concerns are raised in a child-focused way, and so is the plan. How many times do you see plans that only benefit one parent? They've not thought of the other side, and more importantly, they've not thought of the child. And they've not thought that because, quite honestly, they're just so scared, and they're paralysed, and they're stuck. Just kind of, whether that's through humour, talking through exactly what is the purpose? Why is Cafcass there? What is on their shopping list? That often tends to diminish the fear from level 5 to, say, hopefully level 2. I mean, I'm not quite convinced. I'd be worried, quite honestly, if somebody was kind of metaphorically feet cocked up on the table and a gin and tonic in hand. But just trying to help Cafcass, just trying to help the parents understand that Cafcass are there to build a picture.
I believe sometimes the fear is justified, but sometimes it just comes from not understanding the process, as you are saying. What are the biggest mistakes parents make in a family court?
Oh my gosh, I probably see 3 over and over. Number 1, trying to prove the ex is a liar. I think you're in the wrong arena for that, because quite frankly, even if that was true, there's probably not enough court timetabling just to show that. And you've probably missed the point anyway. The minute you start going down that rabbit hole of trying to prove the ex is a liar, you've missed the boat. You've not thought about financial remedy. You've not thought about child arrangements. You're on a different track. I think number 2, submitting mountains of paperwork instead of relevant evidence. Parents think that when they go to court, they have the kitchen sink of paperwork. They have every WhatsApp conversation since the invention of WhatsApp. And most of the hearings, as you know, are quite admin. Actually, from the judge's point of view, quite boringly admin directions. How are we timetabling things forward? And then I think finally, number 3 is walking into court with absolutely no solution. A lot of people think that they turn up to court and they just got to speak their truth and then justice will prevail. Well, you and I both know that that is not the case. When we go to these court hearings, each hearing has a specific to-do list from the court. But parents will walk into the court just saying, this is my story. And not being directly, not being focused. Court don't justify, they don't want our problems, they want solutions. They're there to make workable orders work. And it's our job to try and help parents go to court with that. There was a bunch of other mistakes, but I did try and narrow it down to the top three.
My takings from this phrase, many parents thinking that if they explain everything, the court will automatically understand them, but often too much information can actually hide the important points. You're talking about people asking, will the court see through their lies? Why is there often such a big gap between that the parent feel is important and what the court is actually dealing with at that stage?
Right. This is probably the question I'm asked about the most. Every live, every video, every comment, people become obsessed with exposing lies, but family court isn't a courtroom drama. The judge isn't there to award points. I think they get so obsessed with it because a couple of reasons, I think. First of all, just from a human point of view, if I'm to be neutral about this, the other side possibly might believe their own narrative. It's a bit like when you look at something in childhood, right? And you remember a certain scenario being this way, but actually the other person remembers a scenario being that way. It's just what you remember, your lived experience. And then on the other side of the scale, listen, no parent is going to stop contact and be honest and say, do you know what, I'm just going to stop contact because I just can't be bothered. Which might, and I'm deliberately being provocative with my language, but potentially that could be something that if you were to subtitle what's actually going on could be the real reason. I think that when parents are going through court like that, everything is personal. Every nuance, every sentence. And we see it, don't we? Because when we have parents who look at, say, Cafcass reports, for example, isn't it funny how me and you are going to jump to the end of the report to see what advice or recommendations that Cafcass is going to give to the court. And yet the parent's going to focus on the bit where Cafcass has done the he said, she said bit. And they really focus on that. I think one of the things that both probably you and I both do is constantly try and metaphorically wrestle the gun from their hands to say, no, we need to not go down on that track. I mean, if I've said that once, I've said it a bajillion times. And, you know, one of the things, again, perspective, right? Part of what we do is just perspective. The judge isn't there to award points. They're asking what arrangements is best for this child. I mean, if someone's lied, the court will deal with it. If that lie, quote unquote, has a direct impact on what the court has to deal with. But you can't lose sight of it there. I mean, hello, practice direction 12J, right? If the court is going to deal with it, they will deal with it. But people do obsess with it. And I'm forever trying to lasso clients just to try and keep them on the straight now and understand, okay, this is our why. This is why we're here. This is what you want. Remember your why. Remember your goal.
Now it's coming my favorite question because it's come up so often. People asking lawyers and McKenzie friends about their win rate. How do you answer the question in family court, and what does a win actually mean to you?
Right. So unlike England, when, let's be honest, the football match last night, England was not bringing it home. Family court isn't football. Because I always smile when people ask me that. I never get a punch the air moment in a family court. In fact, my punch the air moment in family court looks more like, oh my gosh, did you see how that cross-examination question was worded? Oh my gosh, that's just amazing. Not like what you see on television. And I have to say, I mean, the outcome normally is, oh, well, we could have agreed at that over a cup of coffee, or well, hang on, that's what I offered in the beginning. Actually, so in terms of wins, and people have, by the way, have been embarrassingly kind about me on Google reviews. People often wonder a win might look like being heard, simply being heard. Something where they can, whatever the outcome sometimes, is whether they can move on to the next chapter of their life. Or somebody walking out of court going, okay, I understand what's going on. That's a huge win.
This is a difficult one, but I think it's important. McKenzie Friends are there to support litigant in person, but family court is not just about pushing the client's story at any cost. There has to be some judgment and honesty in the relationship. Do clients usually stay in touch after the case, or do you prefer the clear professional boundary once the work is finished?
Yeah, they do. They really do. Sometimes years later, I have got wedding photos, wedding invites, baby photos, updates on children that have gone off to university. And for me, that's a privilege. And although I do keep professional boundaries because, listen, healthy endings are important too, I think the relationship that a decent, a good McKenzie friend has with their clients, it is different to that of a solicitor and barrister. We're performing a different role to somebody else in the legal profession. As a side note, I do sort of get concerned with McKenzie friends who are, and again, forgive my deliberately clunky language, they're kind of solicitor wannabes. That has never been me. I get asked all the time, why did I not go on and become a solicitor and barrister by both judiciary, clients? My answer is always the same. My role is our role is absolutely necessary. And therefore the relationship's a bit different as well. So do clients stay in touch? Oh, absolutely. And for me, it's an absolute privilege.
I believe we stay in touch with most of the parents because just family court support is very intense, and most of the time you are involved on the most stressful time in someone's lives.
Yes.
You also work with financial cases. If someone's believed that other side is hiding asset, income or property, what is the realistic first step?
First of all, don't start by accusing. It's, again, a little bit like child arrangements, really. It's very simple for somebody to say they're lying and leave it at that, rocking up to court with the bundle that's possibly a bunch of the stationery exploding on the table, gathering it all together, hole punching it and sticking it in a lever arch folder. So as an ex-fraud investigator, I am super nosy, and I'll always tell people, quietly, you just want to start gathering evidence, because here's the thing: when people hide assets, very often the lifestyle does not match the income. And sometimes people are not as clever as they think they are, because they say, for example, they're only earning £12,000, but you can clearly see on the bank statement by highlighting various transactions, that's not the case. Or for a fact that they have property elsewhere. Sometimes basic Googling, and listen, people are really awful when it comes to hiding things on social media. Like, there's so much information available these days that actually, with a little bit of sleuthing, being your own private detective, gather that evidence. Bank statements, land registry, company's house, disclosure inconsistencies. I mean, the court literally has a timetable in which for you to expose that. You want to be asking questions before making allegations. For me, it's always about following the trail. Follow the money, follow the trail. Family courts are very good at asking for explanations where something doesn't add up, but you have to do the thinking for the court. There's no good rocking up going, oh my God, they've just hidden their pensions. They've got 5 pensions and they've not disclosed any of them. You need to be doing and being in the driver's seat, asking those questions. And actually, certainly from our roles point of view, that's very imperative. empowering for someone else to do. And I have to say, again, listen, I've got lots of really good friends who are family law barristers and solicitors, but there are a lot of family law barristers and solicitors out there that don't do that detective work, don't do that joined up thinking. When you've got a litigant in person, they're hiding assets. Actually, there's way more things they can do. When people feel proactive and they're doing something and things are moving, it's a bit like being stuck on the M25. If you're not going anywhere, how frustrating is that? But even if you have to go sometimes around the B roads, you feel better because you're going somewhere.
I think these are very useful informations where to start. How difficult is for a person without legal representation to deal with hidden assets or international financial issues? And when does they need solicitors, barristers, or other specialists?
It's a great question. I think somebody completely on their own. When people talk about litigants in persons, they themselves will often refer to that as just somebody completely on their own. And no man is an island. Regardless of whether you're in family court or not, actually, I think collaboration is key. I think knowledge is power. And I think ultimately having your squad around you is absolutely key. I think you need to be very selective on who you have in your team. And whether that's barrister, solicitor, actually, sometimes a really good McKenzie Friend who deals with this sort of thing is vital. Perhaps a side note here, because I know that I'm actually quite rare in doing what I do, because my background was born in finance, corporate finance, not the not so nice bits of finance, the fraud investigating, benefits review. I've always worked specifically in finance right until 20 years ago when I specialised in family law. So sometimes I do acknowledge that trying to find that person in your team at cost effective, because here's the thing about financial cases, whether it's hidden assets, international assets, doing a financial case with solicitors, barristers, or anybody else usually in that arena, pun absolutely intended, can be very, very expensive. Really expensive. A lot of family law professionals actually hike up their prices just because it's finance. I have a bit of an added bonus because I grew up as an expat. I grew up in the Middle East. I honestly, hand on heart, believe that the world is a small place, and especially that you've got things like the internet and social media linking cultures and countries together. If you are a litigant in person, I talk about social media a lot. I'm very active on social media. I do lives a lot, and I'm very, very free in my information. Naturally, there are going to be times when a litigant in person is going to need a little bit of specialist help, but I'd be very selective about how you get that help, because whether people can afford a solicitor or not, there's a lot of money. I mean, so far I've just had a case and we are up to something like £150,000 costs-wise collectively, and we are not even halfway through yet. The costs are eye-watering, and they can be. So I think, actually, first of all, I would tell any litigants in person that you can do your own bit of sleuthing. Secondly, look around, see who you can get on your team. And thirdly, if you do need experts like forensic accountants, foreign lawyers, etc., then make sure you've got that person in the background who's guiding you through things like navigating through Part 25. How to put the application together, what to put the application, how to put the application, because it is completely alien to somebody else. Now, I've got a case at the moment actually, which is very international. And oh my gosh, when drafting the order, we didn't just have one single joint expert, we had like 3, and the cost is eye-watering. So I would just be careful, and I think just make sure you have that consistency, make sure you do some homework. A lot of this, I have to say, although a lot of this is available and information available online, I gotta say, and as somebody that specializes in this myself, I find a lot of finance cases, and especially things like talata, when couples are unmarried, it's really dry, it's not sexy, and you're trying to jazz up something which potentially can be on the surface quite boring, quite rulesy, quite admin-y. People have got to be really organised. But I think more than ever, having that right person by the side is absolutely key. Naturally, I will suggest if you're going to need an expert, and sometimes you absolutely do, well, then let's just explain that process. Know what people are getting into. Knowledge is power. And just having that knowledge on its own, I think, is super powerful. And there's absolutely no shame, by the way, in recognizing that when your case becomes bigger than one person, you're going to need to have some help to realistically manage that.
I just want to touch this section definitely because it's different from child arrangement. Financial remedy can be very technical and very, very quickly, especially when there are businesses, properties, and assets outside the UK. But I changed the topic now a little bit. I want to know about professional indemnity insurance is often mentioned as a safeguard. In your view, does it give real protection to client, or can it sometimes be more comfortable if people do not understand what is actually covered?
So I try and keep things super simple, and that is my mantra. So simple that actually I don't ever use the term McKenzie Friends in any of my advertising. And there's a reason for that. I know the role's been around since the 1970s, but sometimes I've gone to court and people in court don't even know what it is. So I try and debunk and not confuse anybody. And that comes the same with professional indemnity insurance as well. Because do clients actually know what it covers? Because sometimes that in itself is a minefield. So what I tend to say is rather than that, ask questions, ask about experience, look at reviews. How are they going to work with you? How are they going to make a decision? Sure, insurance is one part of the picture, but it's not the whole picture. I'm much more keen on resolving and getting a plan than talking about the minutiae, the terms and conditions of professional indemnity insurance. People's heads are often ringing to begin with. One of the reasons actually I don't talk about, and I don't specify usually in my online, is simply just to keep things as super simple as possible. People understand representing themselves. People understand affordable. People just simply want to know, can you help me? How are you going to help me? Weirdly, in all the years, of course, under practice guidance, you have to submit your CV to court. I also do it to the other side. As part of the practice guidance for McKenzie Friend. And there's a bunch of case law in the covering letter that goes with that. But do you know what? Shall I tell you how many times anybody has asked for my qualifications? And I have loads. And my experience, shall I tell you? 0. No one cares. People put their trust in somebody. And I think when people are looking, people act often on gut. They act on feeling. People buy feelings, believe it or not. So professional indemnity insurance, I couldn't think of anything duller than, yes, imagining a conversation with someone going, I've got professional indemnity insurance. This covers for this, and this. And I can see my guys have zoned out by this point. They just simply want to know, please, can you help me?
I agree. How do you think AI will change family court support, public education, and the way parents choose who to trust?
I absolutely love AI. I think it helps make information more accessible. I think it helps draft documents. It helps parents understand the process, possibly prepare better. In fact, legal professionals themselves are using AI. I'm very lucky. I'm probably one of the only McKenzie Friends that gets invited to eminent legal conferences on an annual basis, and I attend their seminars, etc. So not only am I up to date with case law, but I'm also up to date with how legal professionals are using AI. Fun fact, the founder of My Family Wizard has brought out an AI legal app specifically for legal professionals for all of the same reasons above. I use AI, but I actually use AI not necessarily for legal purposes. I actually use AI more for social media because I want to know, when I'm trying to get the word out there about what we do, I want to know, what are people Googling? What are people searching for? What actually is their pain points, rather than, quite frankly, me just feeling like I'm educating the public. So, however, I would say, though, that AI cannot replace judgment. It can't read a room. It can't spot when someone's terrified and simply needs someone to hear and say, we've got this. let's deal with one thing at a time, block A on top of block B. And listen, both me and you can probably spot an AI. I know I certainly can. I can spot an AI generated statement a mile off. It's normally 47 pages of waffle, and I'm normally through page 20 when I'm thinking, okay, so what's the actual point? Like with anything, it's a tool. And if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right outcome. And we still got all the issues that we've mentioned before still here. Now it's just now it's in a 47-page statement with Americanized spelling. Asking the right questions means you're going to get the right output. For example, most people probably aren't going to know what to ask when drafting documents, how to prepare for an FDR or an FDA or a child impact report, how to respond to that. And that's why you typically get quite a lot of waffle. It's irrelevant, and you still got the problems before, only it's now in a kind of generic, formalized, formulaic way that fails to understand the point. And there is, I think, a certain art when preparing documents. Brevity, I think, is key. Don't forget that the thing that AI doesn't take into account, for example, is the fact that judges rarely get a lot of reading time. If you're going to put a statement together, the court really would like to know who's who, what's what, and what do you want. So I do think that for sure it's there. For sure it's an amazing tool. I wholly advocate using AI, but I don't think that AIs would make good professionals. They can make them even better, but they absolutely can't replace them.
I personally do love AI, and I agree absolutely. If you are good in something, then AI can make it even better. Yeah. Finally, what would you say to someone going to family court for the first time who feel completely terrified?
I tell them this. The first hearing is never as scary as the months that they've spent imagining it. Thanks, Netflix. Thanks, Hollywood. It's not what people think it is. Nobody's shouting objection. There was never, ever a gavel used in England and Wales. There's no wigs, there's no flappy gowns. Might be from the usher, but you really got usually some dude sat behind a desk in, let's be honest, a bit of a crappy 70s building with, can I mention, the lack of a coffee machine or a lack of a cafe. That's the reality. I sometimes think, especially when you've got that, it's very intimidating, but it's never as scary as people imagine. And very often when people have done the first hearing, they've broken the duck, so to speak, that they're on a roll, because then it's kind of wash, rinse and repeat. People only need to know the next step. They don't need to know everything. People don't have to be perfect. They just need to be prepared. And as I always say on all of my social media and my lives, I get people to sing it with me. The magic is in the prep.
Michaela, I think that is a very good place to finish. Thank you very much for your time and sharing your experience today.
Thank you honestly so much for having me on here. It's honestly been a real pleasure.
That was my conversation with Michaela. For me, the strongest message is simple. Family court is frightening, but you don't need to know everything at once. You need to understand the next step, prepare properly, and stay focused. Thank you for listening Family Court Conversation with Everyman Justice. I'm Gergely Fried, and I will see you in the next episode.